So it is that time of year again. At currently this time of recording, it is the 28th of December, 2023, which means a new year is about to come, and the year's going to wrap up in about 3 days from now. So what's a better time than me to just stand here for a bit and talk about my favourite movies of the year. Now, I've got a big list this year. I saw a lot of movies this year. I've actually got a top 20 to show you. So I am pretty excited. I'm counting down all the movies that I did really enjoy this year. And since it is a long list, I think the ones furthest down the list are probably ones that I thought were kind of just okay. I probably did see a couple of movies this year that were probably bad, but I can't think of many. Most of the movies that I saw I did enjoy very well, but there are definitely ones that I did enjoy a lot more than others. So without further ado, I think I should get into the first part of this list. This is going to be a two-part video. I don't really want to sandwich this all into one video. I will spread it out over two. So anyway, starting from 20, let's go. So at number 20 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I have real mixed thoughts about this movie. At some parts it is entertaining and it is creative, and at other parts it kind of loses its way quite a bit. It is definitely another ambitious MCU title, but the MCU at this point is just getting so fatigued and so drawn out, and we've seen them all, you know. It's kind of getting to the point where it's starting for them to get really hard to come up with original ideas and original properties, because at this point they've really done it all. There was a point in time that people said that Spider-Man wouldn't be part of the MCU, and the MCU proved everyone wrong with a whole brand new rendition of Spider-Man, and a pretty good one as of that. This movie didn't really do much for me. I do enjoy the first Ant-Man movie. Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, not as much. And this one is definitely very interesting of how going into the quantum realm. The whole quantum realm idea was exciting to me. It did get me interested to see where they would go with this kind of science, because as you probably know, quantum physics is still very much in the undiscovered territory. There's really not much that we know about it apart from the surface value of it. There is a joke saying that if you know too much about quantum physics, you don't know anything about quantum physics, and that's kind of what I took away from this movie, is that this movie doesn't really understand very well the science of what they're talking about, but it gives the plot room for another world for them to explore, and it is pretty interesting as of that. So it's not the worst movie ever, but it is probably the weakest of the three Ant-Man movies, apart from the whole quantum realm aspect. The villain was decent. He was a very monstrous villain, a very mysterious villain, but he wasn't the best MCU villain of the year in my opinion. I will save that for later, for a movie that you probably know is also going to be on this list, but you just have to wait and see where it will land. So anyway. Okay, so taking the number 19 spot is Killers of the Flower Moon. It's kind of funny for me to put a Scorsese movie right in front of an MCU movie, because as you probably know, Scorsese is not a fan of the MCU, calls them theme park rides. I honestly don't see anything wrong with theme park rides. I'm literally obsessed with them. But anyway, this movie sort of left me pretty disappointed, to be honest. I was expecting a very thrilling sort of 1900s America thriller with some racial elements thrown in, and it was that, but I think this movie just kind of left me feeling really cold. I know it's supposed to be a serious drama, but I was expecting it to be a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more comedic, because there is not a single joke in this entire movie. It is completely dark from start to finish, and doesn't really leave you with any hope. It's very hopeless, and it's very nihilistic, and it's very dark at times. Sometimes I'm in the mood for that, but there was a lot of dark stuff that came out this year, to the point where I feel like the media circle has been oversaturated with dark vibe storytelling, where everything is almost too dark and very little hope and light is in it. I felt a lot that way when it came to The Last of Us Part 2. I also felt the same way when I watched a show about Jeffrey Dahmer. Overall, I was probably... I wanted a bit more from this movie, but at the same time, it is kind of what I expected at the same time, so I can't really criticise it that much. It is a well-directed movie, I will say that. It is well-acted. It is another pretty decent, too good Scorsese film, but this is definitely not one of my favourite films from him, which is a bit of a shame. Coming up at number 18 is Disney Pixar's Elemental. So I did enjoy this movie. I did think it was creative at parts. I did like the whole elemental aspect of it. I haven't really seen anything like that done since Avatar: The Last Airbender. But this movie does it in a very different way. It's not really about magic. It's more just like about the elements themselves manifesting different types of people. Like, we have a character called Wade who is literally made of water and loves bawling his eyes out, which is this pretty funny gag that they use throughout the movie. Though the movie isn't hilarious, though, it definitely has its funny moments, and it does have a creative art style. It does have a very unique looking style when it comes to the city and the four factions inside the city, which is, of course, the four elements. And there is sort of a pretty interesting story when it comes to family tradition, which I did sort of admire. But this was still a pretty weak fare from Pixar. I still was expecting something a bit more laid and a bit more emotionally heavy. But at the same time, it is an entertaining film, and it's definitely not a bad film. I just kind of was expecting a little bit more wow factor from what I got. But at the end of the day, it's still a decent animated movie, but it is the lowest rated animated film I've seen this year compared to a couple of others that are on this list. Okay, so coming at the number 17 spot is another CG Disney animated film, Wish. So this is the movie I've seen the most recently, because I only watched it this morning. I said to myself I was not going to do this list until I saw Wish, because I was trying to fill up all 20 movies, and Wish was the final piece. I did really enjoy Wish. It was definitely more original and a bit of a different take on most classic Disney films, and this one being CG, even though it's not a Pixar CG, it's a Disney animation CG film. I did really enjoy this one. It was definitely quite good. It did have an entertaining villain. The villain was also kind of dumb as well. He was very monstrous, even for a Disney villain, which was quite surprising. And he does, Chris Pine does play a really good performance as Magnifico, which is obviously the movie's villain. I keep on forgetting all the other actors' names. I keep on forgetting the name who played the main character. I did like the person who played the goat, though. For some reason, I thought it was Sean Connery, and then I kind of had like a brain fart realising that Sean Connery passed away a few years back, so it couldn't have been him. But it kind of sounded like him. But overall, another decent Disney animated film. It kind of does feel like it's borrowing the same art style from Puss in Boots' The Last Wish from last year. And it's kind of obvious, like, the word wish is in the title, so I do think Disney took inspiration from that movie in a lot of ways. So you can thank Puss in Boots 2 for the existence of this movie, I guess, though don't fact check me on that, I'm not entirely sure, but it is kind of obvious. I haven't reviewed the movie in full yet. I don't think I will, but from here I'm going to give it a 6.5. It was decent. It's nowhere near a Disney masterpiece or anything, but it was a decent, enjoyable film with cute moments and good characters. Okay, so taking up the number 6 spot is a horror film, Saw X. Now, funnily enough, this is actually the only Saw movie I've ever seen start to finish. I have not seen any of the other Saw movies in the entire franchise. I do know a few traps from several movies, and I know the infamous bear trap from the first Saw movie, but this is a franchise that I haven't really gotten into. But that being said, Saw X being the first Saw film I've seen and first saw it in a theatre, I was pleasantly surprised and satisfied with just how hard this horror movie went on the gore factor. It is very gory, showing a lot of injury detail. There is a very well done horror effect at the start where someone's eyes get both sucked out into tubes, which is absolutely disgusting, and I loved it. But overall, I do also like the characterization of Jigsaw in this one. He definitely is still a villain in my eyes, but you can see how the movie is trying to justify his actions. This is kind of like a revenge tale on people that have wronged him. I still don't support Jigsaw at all for what he's doing, but at least you can sort of understand why he has the drive to play these these horribly dangerous and sick games with innocent people. But overall, it was a very good horror film, very entertaining, wasn't too serious, it was very ham-fisted a lot of times, but it kind of needed to be. Overall, I liked it, and I thought it was a good Saw film. Okay, so coming up next is the Super Mario Brothers movie by Illumination. This is the only video game adaptation movie that's come out all year. And out of all that I've seen, this is one of the better ones. The animation is very lively. I'm not always a fan of Illumination's films. I'm not a really big fan of Despicable Me and all the Minions films. But this was refreshing. It was a change of pace from the studio. I did enjoy what I see. I did like how faithful it was to the video games, unlike the 1993 movie, which was nothing like the games. That movie's fun too, but this one is definitely... I mean, Nintendo were actually supervising the production of this movie so they could make sure it was actually faithful to the games. And it was good. I'd liked Chris Pratt as Mario, even though he wasn't Italian. It's not completely faithful to the game since the plumbers themselves are from New York and actually discover the Mushroom Kingdom. They're actually not native to it, which is a bit weird, but it's the direction that they went. I like Jack Black as Bowser. I wasn't a big fan of the Peaches song. I found it to be actually really annoying, actually. I did see how it went viral, but I wasn't a big fan of the song. But the rest of the movie was actually really fun and really entertaining for what it was, and I did really like how they made Peach kind of independent and kind of a badass. She wasn't a damsel in distress like she is in all the games. That she could actually hold weight on her own, which is actually very refreshing to see from that character. I'm definitely bumping the movie up for that. It's very entertaining, and I can see why it's now the highest grossing film of all time, maybe? It is the highest grossing animated film of all time. I think Avatar: The Way of Water still has a #1 spot for the highest grossing movie, but this isn't too far behind, and I did think it was actually a very entertaining film, so there's that. Taking the spot at number 14 is another animated film that I really liked, and that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem by Nickelodeon Films. I forget who directed this film. I think it was Seth Green actually who directed this film, or maybe he voiced one of the characters. But overall, I really liked how different the art style was in this movie, because there have been a few animated TMNT films in the past and some TV shows. The animation in this movie is like very frayed and very like scribbled and very like uneven and very dirty looking, and I like that. It really does fit the atmosphere of the characters well, as New York and the sewers. It didn't like have the most profound story, but like it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it's kind of like, what do you expect? But for that type of movie in this franchise, it was very entertaining, and it's probably one of the best TMNT movies I've ever seen, besides the original live action one from 1990. Secret of the Ooze is pretty good as well. I don't like the third movie. I don't think anyone really likes it. I know the Angry Video Game Nerd hates that movie. But overall, I've also seen TMNT 2006 as well, and that was a decent movie, though I haven't seen it since I was a kid. This has been really my first time I really ventured into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise since that time, and from what I saw, I really enjoyed it. So it's a really good family film, really good kids film, so I give it a thumbs up. So taking in number 13 is The Creator, which is a new science fiction film that was made on a budget. I think it was $120 million. This was one of the most expensive budgeted movies of the year, and from what I saw, I really enjoyed it. I did like the child actor. I did like all the CGI special effects. It did have a very original feel to it when it came to the sci-fi genre. It's not a Star Wars movie. It's not an MCU movie. It's not from any existing franchise. It's its own original science fiction film, and there have been no other original science fiction films that I know of that came out this year apart from this one. It had a pretty engrossing story. I liked the characters. I liked Idris Elba, whoever I think that's his name, as the main character. It was directed by the same person who directed Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and it did kind of feel a little bit similar to that in sort of tone and the way it looked. But of course it has nothing to do with Star Wars, it's its own thing. I really do like original movies when they come out, and this definitely was one, so I really liked it. Coming in at number 12 was a movie that actually really surprised me of how good it was, and that was Gran Turismo by Neil Blomkamp, which is yet another video game adaptation film, and in my opinion, I think this might be the best one that I've ever watched. This was actually a very inspiring and very engrossing and evocative story when it comes to a video game film. I do like the message that it drives, that video games aren't just a useless waste of time. You can actually play them and use them as a way to become more skilled at like a real life skill, which is unheard of from any video game film that I've ever seen. Every video game film that I've seen is focused on like the fictional world of the video game, while this video game movie was actually based on a true story that actually happened in real life, which was about, I keep on forgetting the name of the real person, but he was put into an experimental training academy for Gran Turismo, and he ended up becoming one of the best race car drivers in the world. It truly is an inspiring story, and it is a brilliant movie. It's not as well directed as Ford v Ferrari, I will say that, but for what it is, it still looks really damn good, and there's quite a bit of drama, well-earned drama in this film. It is another pretty serious film. There's not much humour in it, unfortunately, unlike Ford v Ferrari, which was actually quite light-hearted in a lot of aspects. Though I did really like David Harbour's performance in it. He did really well in this movie. I loved Orlando Bloom as one of the supporting characters. I keep on forgetting the name of the actor who played the main character. Forgive me, I don't remember everything, but overall this was a very, very well done video game movie, and at this time this is the best one that I've ever seen. Alright, so the final pick of this first part 1 video is at the number 11 spot is Strays, a comedy movie. I think the only comedy movie that's made it onto this video in particular. I really liked this movie. I thought it was really funny. I loved how crude it was. I liked how they animated the dogs. There are definitely some shots where they use real dogs, and some shots where the dogs are entirely CG. Some shots where the facial movements are CG. But overall, the animation for the facial movements of the dogs was really well done. I did really like Will Ferrell in this movie. He was really funny. Overall, it's just a refreshing adult comedy movie about dogs. It's kind of like the adult version of Homeward Bound. And I was surprised of how much I enjoyed this one. Of course, it's not perfect. It's not like the perfect comedy film, but it does have its problems. But it still was very enjoyable for me, and I had a really good time watching this. So that's why I put it this high on this list. I just don't see that many comedy movies anymore, and it's always very refreshing and makes me feel good when a good one does come out in this day and age. Alright, so that concludes the first part of this list. The second part will go into, of course, 10 to 1, my top 10 favourite films of the year. There were just so many films that I saw this year that I couldn't just make one video. There were just way too many. I think I will talk more in depth about the following movies than I did about these ones. But anyway, I hope you stick around to see the second part, and I'll see you then. Thanks.